Hello everyone, welcome to the new and updated guide on Nahida. Nahida is a 5-star Dendro character who brings a lot of utility to your team with her Dendro application and solid damage output. She is a fantastic support option whether you are using her on field or off field. So in today's video, we are breaking down everything great about Nahida, her best builds, her artifacts, weapon, team composition, constellation, playstyle and more. But before that guys, if you like my rambling, please consider subscribing to my channel. As a small and still growing channel, it helps me a lot. Now let's get back to the video. Let's get started by looking at what Nahida can actually do. If you are unfamiliar, she is an extremely strong and versatile Dendro applier and support unit. Her entire kit offers tremendous value with her elemental skill and passive being particularly noteworthy. Since Nahida is a Dendro Catalyst user, her normal, charge and plunge attack are all infused with Dendro, letting her apply it constantly. This means that while she is mainly designed to be a support character, she can still function on field if you need more Dendro application or if your team lacks a dedicated DPS. The cornerstone of her kit is her elemental skill. When activated, it marks enemies within range, either around you with a light tap or in a large distance if you hold it down. Holding the skill lets you mark multiple enemies within the skill limit, and you can even spin your camera to mark multiple enemies in one go. The range is quite significant, and while there is a limit, it's generally very generous, so you can mark up to 8 enemies at once, making this skill extremely efficient in fights where you need a lot of Dendro application and very fast. The skill is called the Seed of Skanda, dealing initial Dendro damage and reapplying it whenever you trigger an elemental reaction, refreshing it every 2.5 seconds without any internal cooldown, making this skill extremely broken and making Nahida an ideal fit for any Dendro based reaction teams. The Dendro application is quite powerful and scales with both attack and elemental mastery, affecting the damage you can do. Plus, the more reactions you trigger, the more Dendro you apply. So maximizing her elemental mastery becomes the key for more damage output. This stat also enhances reaction damage, meaning spread or bloom reaction will hit hard. Her mark also lasts a full 25 seconds, while the skill itself has a shorter cooldown of 5 to 6 seconds depending on how you use it, ensuring near constant uptime for Dendro application with a total of 500% skill uptime. And you can even collect many materials with this skill in overworld. All you have to do is hold her skill and get the materials within her camera to collect it. And again, this skill has a very generous range, making this skill the core of her kit, offering both damage and utilities. Next, let's talk about Nahida's elemental burst, the Illusory Heart Shrine of Maya, or as I like to call it, Nahida's domain expansion. This ability enhances the skill mark depending on your party's composition. If you have Pyro unit, the mark's damage increases. If you run Electro, the reaction trigger interval shortens, going from 2.5 seconds to 1.9 seconds with 2 Electro member. Hydro extends the mark duration. The burst itself lasts for 15 seconds with a short cooldown and low energy cost of 50, making it easy to maintain uptime. While these buffs are helpful, they aren't always game changing. The real strength lies in the elemental mastery boost granted by her passive, which can go up to 250 depending on the highest elemental mastery on your party. Nahida's first passive talent allows your on-field character to gain 25% of the highest elemental mastery in your party, up to a max of 250 if one of your character has 1000 EM. Nahida can reach this cap. This bonus also makes her ideal for reaction heavy teams, as EM boost significantly enhances reaction damage. Her second passive further boosts her damage by converting her EM into damage bonus and crit rate. At 1000 EM, you can get up to 80% bonus damage and 24% crit rate. This passive ability also makes stacking EM highly efficient on Nahida, but you don't need to max out EM at the cost of other important stats. In the build section, we will dive deep into the optimal balance for her stats. Nahida's burst also serves as an excellent EM buffer for your team. In reaction focused teams like Aggrovate or Bloom, the extra 250 EM can make a noticeable difference in damage output. Even in Hyper Bloom teams where reaction process might be off field, your on field character will still benefit from the EM boost. Depending on your team, the value of Nahida's burst will vary, but in most cases it's worth using to maximize team synergy. Now let's discuss Nahida's two main playstyles, styles. You can either use her as an off-field Dendro support or as an on-field Dendro driver. In her off-field role, you will apply marks on enemies, trigger reaction and use her burst to buff your on-field character's elemental mastery. She is also capable of dealing decent personal damage when built properly. And on-field Nahida shines by applying even more Dendro through her normal attack and charge attack. Thanks to her catalyst weapon type, this can be particularly useful in teams where you lack a dedicated driver or where you want constant Dendro applications. When building Nahida, prioritize elemental skill. It's the core of her kit. If she's off-field, level up her burst next. And if she's on-field, her normal attacks become more important. As for artifacts, her best in slot set is usually 4-piece deep wood memories which boost Dendro damage and lower enemies' Dendro resistance, benefiting both her and her teams. If someone else is using deep wood, you can opt for 4-piece gilded dreams or even golden troops for more personal damage, as this set emphasizes on elemental mastery which complements her passive and overall playstyle. Stat-wise, focus on stacking elemental mastery, especially if you are aiming for the 1000 EM threshold. However, don't ignore other crucial stats like crit rate, crit damage and attack. Balancing these stats is the key to maximizing her damage output and utilities. In conclusion, Nahida is an incredibly powerful support character who brings a lot of value to the reaction-based teams. She is easy to use, has flexible builds and excels in variety of team compositions. Whether you are playing her on and off field, her ability to apply Dendro constantly and boost reaction damage makes her one of the most valuable support characters in the game. While she has a few minor weaknesses such as being squishy and having some issues in multi-wave content, her overall strength far outweighs those drawbacks. If you are looking for a reliable Dendro support, Nahida is an excellent choice. Now I want to emphasize that Nahida's weapon ranking can vary greatly depending on your personal playstyle, rotations, artifacts and team composition. So take this as a general guide to help you determine which weapon might work best for you. Her signature weapon, the 1000 Floating Dreams, is her best in slot weapon and has a lot of VM, so you can use it on your support off-field Nahida. But if you want more damage, you can use Kagura's Verity on her, which gives her a lot of crit damage. As for F2Ps, Sacrificial Fragment, Mappa Mare and 3-star Magic Guide can be used for off-field and Witsit can be used for on-field Nahida. It's worth noting that Nahida's constellations are also powerful, but don't feel pressure to go for them if you don't want to. She is incredibly strong at C0. However, if you are considering constellations, her C2 is especially impactful. Nahida's second constellation is a game changer, particularly for Dendro reactions. It boosts the damage of Burning Bloom and its sub-reactions Hyper Bloom and Burgeon by granting them a 20% crit rate and 100% crit damage. This provides a massive damage boost to reaction-heavy teams. Additionally, enemies hit by Quicken, Spread or Aggravate will have their defense reduced by 30%, which is a huge deal. Defense reduction is a rare and one of the most efficient way to increase overall damage output, especially in teams running electro characters alongside Nahida. This constellation alone can elevate your entire team's DPS by roughly 20% or more, depending on the situations. Let's break down her other constellations briefly. C1 enhances the buff from her burst, granting an extra buff for Pyro, Electro and Hydro characters in your party. Though it's not a major power spike, C3 and C5 increase talent levels, with C3 being quite helpful as it increases skill talent level. C4 add elemental mastery in multi-target situation up to 160 EM, which is decent but situational. Finally, C6 significantly improves Nahida's personal damage when played on field. After using her burst, her normal and charge attacks will deal massive Dendro damage, scaling with both her elemental mastery and attack, making her a potential DPS in certain team setup. If you are considering constellations, C2 is by far the best stopping point. It provides incredible value, especially for reaction-based teams, and can drastically improve your team's overall DPS. Now let's dive into Nahida's best team compositions. As we have seen, she excels in just about any Dendro reaction team thanks to her flexible and powerful Dendro application both on-field and off-field. Her synergy with various team comps is one of her greatest strengths. For instance, she pairs wonderfully with Electro characters in Quicken or Aggravate teams. Nahida works especially well off with Electro supports like Kuki, Fischl or Yaimiko, as well as on-field options like Kachin, Sino, Chlorid or Raiden. She also shines as a battery for Dendro DPS characters, making her a key support in many of Alhatham's top teams, and can also be used on some of Kanith's teams as well. A popular team Nahida is known for is Quick Bloom team, where you combine Quicken and Hyper Bloom reaction by weaving in a Hydro unit. This team setup takes advantage of both Quicken and Hyper Bloom reaction. With Nahida acting as a primary Dendro applier, you can use Alhaitham or Sino as your main carry, and the flexibility in your team member allows you to experiment with various characters. Nahida is also a strong option in pure Quicken or Aggravate teams, where you focus on dealing electro damage. Here you can pair her with another electro unit such as Redan, Chlorine or Kaching, and add a flexible force slot, perhaps a healer like Kukishinobu or an animo support like Kazuha or Sucrose to enhance your team's damage even further. She can also be played on field as your primary Dendro driver, especially in teams where constant Dendro application is needed. Pair her with a strong off-field character like Xingqiu, Fischl, Beidou or other sub-DPS characters who can dish out damage while Nahida maintains a steady flow of Dendro reactions. This team also allow you to maximize her personal damage while still providing excellent support for your teammates. In Hyper Bloom teams, Nahida is your go-to off-field Dendro support. All you need is an electro character who can stack elemental mastery like Kukishinobu, or you can build an full EM Raiden Shogun. Combine them with a Hydro unit and you're set to trigger powerful Hyper Bloom reactions. This team setup is highly flexible. You can even swap in characters like Xingqiu, Yelan, Kokomi, Nubilet, Furina or Ayato for more varieties. The popular but niche Burgeon and Burning teams are also rising as of the release of Kanich and Emily. If you have them both, pairing them both gives great damage, but if you only have one of them, using Nahida is highly recommended. The core idea is similar to Hyper Bloom, just replace the electro unit with a pyro character such as Toma, Jangling or Deia to trigger Burgeon reactions. Nahida can serve as either on-field or off-field Dendro applier here, depending on the specific team comps and your playstyle. The other niche Dendro team comp is Bloom, where Nahida works with multiple Hydro characters to generate Bloom reaction. In these setups, it's crucial to make sure Nahida is on-field to maximize Dendro application, while your Hydro characters like Kokomi or Barbara take on a more supportive role. But you need one Hydro character in particular in this reaction, that being Nilou. You can still play Bloom without Nilou, but you will not be able to generate as much as Bloom Chord as her, so you need to get Nilou to unlock the full potential of Bloom. In summary, Nahida's team building potential is immense. Whether you are focusing on Quicken, Hyper Bloom or even niche Burning or Bloom teams, Nahida fit in seamlessly and enhances your team's overall damage output. Her versatility allows her to function as both an on-field or an off-field Dendro applier, depending on your needs. If you are running her as a solo Dendro unit in Bloom team, make sure to have sufficient elemental mastery on your Hydro characters to take full advantage of Bloom reactions. Lastly, if you're thinking of pairing her with characters like Kanich and Emily, rest assured Nahida will work great as long as you have a solid healer to keep your team alive, as burning reactions take up a lot of health out of your characters. In some cases, you can even experiment with different weapon options such as Prototype Ember and add extra healing to your team. That wraps us our video on how strong Nahida is as of patch 5.1. Hopefully this guide was helpful to you in some form. As always, let me know if you have any questions in comments. Thanks for watching, and with that, I tonight take my leave.